Welcome, everybody. Tonight's regular council meeting. I'd like to acknowledge Northern Rockies Administration Center is located in the heart of the traditional territories of the Dene, the Cree, and the Danezaa peoples of the Prophet River and Port Nelson First Nations. We further recognize the rights provided by our treaty. Finally, we celebrate the contributions and enduring presence of the Métis people in our nation. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available to the public to attend virtually and is streamed and recorded. All right, are there any additions to tonight's agenda? I have one, and that's the corresponding letter that we got from MLA Davies with respect to air flights, ambulance service. So I'd like to add that on the agenda at 9.3. Are there any council additions? Staff additions?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Adopting the agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Souls. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. There are 4 sets of minutes there for adoption. Committee of the Whole from February 13th at noon. Committee of the Whole February 13th from 5. Regional Council February 13th and the Committee of the Whole meeting from February 16th. Motion to adopt, please. Moved by Councillor Andrews. Second by Councillor Roper. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Are there any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move to the public comment period. So this is part of the agenda where people from the public can make a comment of the agenda if they're something that's on the agenda tonight. Is there anybody online that wishes to speak? No? Is there anybody in the gallery? Oh, okay. Wow, we're just zinging through this. That brings us, sorry. That brings us to item number 7, which is a delegation from the Northern Lamplighters, Valerie Keeler and Teresa Ziegler. Welcome. You can sit, there's room. There's okay. Just remember to turn a little red light on, please. Oh, but the folks on the TV can't.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. So I am here with Teresa Ziegler from the Northern Lamplighters. I believe everyone on council should have the letter that we sent and the budget. We, as an organization, are here. We represent the 50+ community, focusing on socialization, recreation, and education. We've never asked the council for financial help before, but we are at a point where we are having difficulty getting funds for things. More about programming than anything else. So our ask today is for help to hire a executive director. And if we could get help to hire somebody for 1 year, we would then be able to show need, and then we can apply for a community gaming grant in the following years, because community gaming will only fund if you are able to show need and that you've hired somebody in the past. So we would ask the council for $26,851 for, again, this year only, because in future we'll be able to go to community gaming. So I should ask if there are any questions, really.
Thank you for your presentation. Council, are there any questions, ladies? Councillor Andrews.
How many members do you guys have?
Currently this year we have 43 members and 10 who are they don't have to pay when they're 80+. So altogether 53. Generally we have more. Yeah, for some reason we're still collecting funds for membership as the year goes on. But the 2021 census recognizes that there's almost 2,000 people of the age 50 or more in this region.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
It is. Yeah.
Pretty significant.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Councilor Gerwin, please.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a question. I just noticed all of the grants and everything that you have been able to secure. And I think that having an executive director would make it so that you could even apply for more. And then, you know, you do have that building to maintain, and you've done a wonderful job of redoing the kitchen for those that don't know. And the siding on the outside, for those who remember how awful it used to look, and now that's all redone. So like, you have done a lot of work since you have been involved. So just wanted to point that out. And I think, you know, I have no doubt that if you could hire an executive director, then I think that you would be even applying for more grants and providing more programming and more opportunities for the 50 plus members of our community. So just wanted to thank you for everything you've done so far.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So does our grant writer assist organizations like this?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's opportunity for any organization in town to utilize the services of a grant writer that the municipality has.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we have found that person very helpful in the past.
Ah,
Yeah.
Good. And the only other question I have about the budget is the 11,450 for, you need a new furnace? So that's a one-time thing, eh? Probably.
Actually, we've just heard from New Horizons that they're giving us money to put in the furnace.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And yeah, so my other comment is, I know everybody knows this, but I think it's worth repeating that dollars for admin are almost impossible to find in terms of grants. Like, you know, you're lucky enough you can get grants for a new furnace or X, Y, and Z, but to find grant money that will actually fund an administrative position is operational, yeah, is like almost non-existent. So I like the idea of, you know, it's a one-time thing, and then you can apply to BC Gaming, and then you're golden, right? So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and hopefully BC Gaming will see the value in the services that you provide and continue funding that. So we won't make this decision about this tonight, but I'm sure we'll move it to our budget discussions, and you'll be able to follow along as we do that if you're so inclined to follow along with budget meetings. Thank you, ladies, very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. You're welcome to stay. Zing, out of here. All right, that brings us to the report, section 8. So 8.1 has been changed on mine, but this is the addition for the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund. So I'll turn it over to staff. Next, Mayor Sean's just going to speak to this one here. Oh yeah. Yeah, they put out a new one.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, sorry. As outlined in my report, funding through Infrastructure Canada's Green and Inclusive Community Building Fund has been identified to potentially cover a portion of the cost associated with accessibility and energy upgrades to some applicable publicly accessible spaces, such as the theatre, the library, Service BC, and Northern Health Clubhouse. The intent of this application is to apply for project costs that could be completed in the event the Canada Community Building Fund Strategic Priorities Fund that was applied for in June of 2022 is unsuccessful. The deadline for the Green and Inclusive Buildings Fund is February 28th, tomorrow. So it's a pretty tight timeline. The GICB fund supports up to 80% of eligible costs. You'll notice the costs weren't outlined specifically within the report, as our consultants, we're still working on breaking out that portion as well as completing the energy modeling that's required for this application. This morning, I received the Class D budget for this grant. In the application, we have outlined just over 2.9 million for eligible costs, with the grant supporting 2.4 million and the NRM showing secured funds of just under 600,000, which could be funded by other revenue sources such as reserves or additional grants or taxation. So the actual specific numbers, the total eligible costs are 2,991,907.50 cents. The amount sought is $2,393,526, and the NRM contribution would be $598,381.50. In an effort to hopefully increase the success of the application, we've changed the name represented on the grant application to be reflective of the work and spaces outlined in that project to be the Fort Nelson Community Amenity Facility renovation. So I'd respectfully request that the project name change be reflected in council's resolution if so passed. And to that point, it's recommended that a grant application to Infrastructure Canada's Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund be submitted for the Fort Nelson Community Amenity Facility renovation, with funding up to 80% to a maximum of $2,999,900. Or option 2 is that an application for additional funding not be submitted at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Questions? You had a question? No, you got it with the second time he said it. I didn't catch it in time to write it all down, but amenities, yeah, the amenities, construction amenities fund.
That's what happens when you let consultants name things.
All right. Are there any other comments from staff? Seeing none, are there any questions from council?
I have one
Dickey?
question on the 2.9 million and us covering 80%. That would mean we would cover 80%?
No,
or not
no.
80%, 20%?
20%. We have to show 20% secure funding. The grant is only eligible up, or sorry, covers 80% of eligible costs.
And that would come out of our reserves?
What is noted here is that it could be reserves, taxation, or additional grant.
So this 588,350 was contemplated by council already when you approved the what was it? Not design number 2 or yeah, and that's only a portion of the overall project, right? The overall project, I can't recall. Could somebody remind me?
Yes, that's correct. This portion is specific to the theater, library, Service BC, and Northern Health Clubhouse.
Right.
We specifically broke it out in that way so that if for some reason we were unsuccessful in the SPF grant that we applied for, which was 6 million, I believe, just over 6 million, we could still work that portion of the work with this grant funding,
Right.
if we're successful.
And so is there opportunity to get both of these grants if we're successful? Could that happen?
And that's another reason why we separated this out, so we want to make sure we're not double dipping. So we didn't want to touch anything that we had applied for already on the
Or we're not seen to be double dipping.
or seem to be double
Yeah,
dipping. That's
yeah.
correct.
Because we're not. If you've separated it out, applied
No.
for a separate grant, applied for a grant here, then it really shows you're not double dipping.
Exactly.
Good. Hate to be accused of that. Any other questions? So staff is asking us to grant this application, move forward. Councillor Growing?
Yeah, I would make the motion that a grant application to Infrastructure Canada's Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund be submitted for the town for the Fort Nelson Community Amenity Facility renovation. Thank you. Project with funding of up to 80% to a maximum of $2,999,999. Yes.
Moved by Councillor Gerwing, second by Councillor Andrews. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
8.2 on the agenda tonight is zoning amendment bylaw, accessible parking number 211/2023. We're looking for first and second reading before we move to a public hearing.
Good evening, everyone again.
Hi.
So the purpose of this report is basically to, sorry. I just got it. Yeah.
Something going around here tonight, I think. That's okay. Relax.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm here with the report today to finalize the outstanding item that we have from 2020. In 2020, there was a resolution made by council regarding the accessible parking spaces. And there were altogether 4 resolutions made, out of which 3 of them were satisfied and one is still outstanding. If you recall the meeting that happened in January about the development permit, and Councillor Andrew had raised that point about the accessible parking, if that has been included. So just for information that it was communicated with the proponent and it got included into the proposed development. And so now we are here with amending the bylaw to incorporate CSAB 65118 standard for accessible parking.
Good. Questions for Ms. Adhikaria? Seems pretty straightforward. Good report. Thank you. So we are looking for first and second readings of the Northern Rockies zoning amendment, accessible parking bill.
Yeah,
Could you read it, please?
Yes, I would make the recommendation that first and second reading be given to Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Zoning Amendment, Accessible Parking Bylaw number 211/2023, and that a public hearing on the amendment be scheduled for 6 p.m. on March 27th, 2023.
Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Gerwing. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to item 8.3 of the Northern Rockies Municipality Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw number 212/2023. Hi, Trevor, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an annual activity where we have a line of credit with the CIBC, and this bylaw supports that line of credit. It's for $1 million. We haven't used it. I don't know if we've ever used it. And we're in a financial position where it's highly unlikely that we would draw on a line of credit. However, it's a good idea to have something in place.
So this is really just allowing us to have that line of credit in case there's cash flow problem before tax time, before we're able to actually collect taxes. That's done by every municipality in the province for the most part, just to make sure that if something happens, you have that backup until you're able to collect your taxes. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Comments? Okay. So just a recommendation.
I make a recommendation that Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw number 212/2023 be given first, second, and third readings.
Moved by Councillor Souls, second by Councillor Andrews. Is there any further discussion on that bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor for second, third readings? Opposed? That's carried. Were we looking for adoption? No, that's next meeting. Adoption will be next meeting. Okay. 8.3, that brings us to 9. There are 2 items there that are for information, unless somebody wants to speak to either of them. So we'll move to receive items 9.1 and 9.2 for information. Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Gerwing. All in favor? Opposed, carried. 9.3 is a letter from MLA Davies, and I certainly would like to discuss that. Moved by Councillor Gerwing for discussion, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed, carried. So I think you all got a copy of that letter. I don't think it's in the package because I really just discovered it in my emails this morning. I thought it was a letter by our MLA. In that letter, he actually points out to the minister that we should all get together and have a discussion about this, right? And it's really about that air service with a specific example of the first letter that we sent with respect to the resident who had some difficulties, health difficulties, and had to be moved by ground transport when air was much more suitable. So I agree with him, and that's why I put it on here to see if you all would be interested in get with Dan and actually ask for some of the minister's time to talk about this, because it is a bigger issue. I think that the ambulance service is coming to give us an overview of their policy and why or how it is, not necessarily why it is, but how it is, so that we have the facts, which is fine. And I think most of us kind of get it. But these discussions are probably going to be about the system, not individual issues, right? So I'm sure that they'll do their presentation to us well before we get an opportunity to speak to the minister. So if I can have a motion for with staff to work with Minister Davies to, or not Minister Davies, MLA Davies to request a meeting with the Minister of Health. Yeah. Moved by Councillor Andrews. Second by Councillor Souls. Any further discussion or anything you'd like to add? Yeah, Councillor Gerwing, please.
At this point in time, would we like to connect with Fort Nelson First Nations Chief and Council to see if they would like to be included in this request to the minister, or would we want?
My feeling is absolute.
And I would like to see that included in the motion.
Okay, so I have an amendment that we also contact the nation, Chief and Council.
And Prophet River as well.
And ask, so there's a mover and a seconder to that motion, sorry, to that amendment. I'm just looking to staff to see if they've got that amendment. Yeah, you got it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so are there any questions or is there any debate on the amendment, which is to add the communities of Port Nelson First Nation and Prophet River First Nations to the discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment? Opposed? That's carried. So the motion as amended is that we authorize staff to work with MLA Davies' office to request a meeting with the Minister of Health and include the First Nation communities of Fort Nelson and Prophet River. Are you okay? Further discussion with that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That motion as amended is carried. Thank you. There's an information package there, 10.1 and 10.2 for information. Somebody want to move that for information? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Gerwing, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. New business under 11. The discussion 11. I don't have any additions for the new business. I don't think I did. So that brings us to confirmation of a meeting with Mackenzie Regional Alliance of Municipalities. Bill Barry?
Yes, just a confirmation that we've been in communication with that group. They were looking at coming here in person, but just trying to get their schedules lined up to do that. So they've communicated they'll do this time around anyway via Zoom virtually. It's challenging sometimes to get one council together, let alone multiple councils, to try to get them to agree on a date. So we understand, but they did indicate they'd like to be able to visit in the future in person. So just at this point, we've got that meeting lined up for March 13th at 5 p.m. as part of the committee of the whole.
Okay. Any questions or objections?
No, it's just that the ice road is going to still be there March 13th. But anyway.
Well, whether they fly or drive, we try to pull two councils together. Oh yeah, 4 or 4. Never mind 2. Yeah, yeah. This just as an aside, one of the things we did with the regional district in Dawson Creek was there was a day set aside every year where we actually were able to meet with the regional districts and some of the others, and it was a little more formal in just creating a day and getting everybody together. But that's something we might want to consider in the future, is just some kind of get together that we plan for with those folks from that side. Same weather, same geography, same industrial operations. Yeah, we have lots in common with them. So this will be interesting, this meeting, and we'll see how it goes. It's a committee of the whole, so it'll be open to the public. Go ahead.
I'm just, because of our suggestions earlier, where we're going to make sure we reach out and let everyone else know about that date. Like TAC, who requested.
Yep. Yeah, TAC specifically because they reached out to us. Okay.
I'm here.
We should still send a formal letter just so that you can put it in your minutes or whatever. Okay. Standing items for discussion. So council reports. Are there any reports from council? All right. I have some. Just to let you know some of the things I've been doing. So February the 14th was in Taylor, the Resource Municipalities Coalition meeting. We had a good presentation from the Immigrations Program Branch, talking about the different programs and streams of people that are coming into Canada, and how they're trying to expand those programs to assist with employment across not only just BC but the country, right? So that was a very good presentation. We had an update from the executive director on where we're going with the Northern Health request for an audit, and it's going nowhere with that request. And we also had a discussion around whether or not we felt the directors for Northern Health were representatives of the Northeast, because they're appointed from the Northeast, or whether or not they're directors of Northern Health. They feel they're directors of Northern Health, not representatives to us. So the coalition has reached out to them. Hopefully we can get them to come and sit at one of our meetings where we can actually have a discussion about, is there an opportunity to change that mindset and have them so that they are representing the Northeast, and at least being able to sit down with them and let them know the projects. They didn't even know about our CT scanner at all, right? Never been put in front of them yet, because there's no project to speak of from Northern Health's perspective, I guess administrative perspective, until there's whatever that form is that's submitted, there's really no project. So he also presented his 2023 action plan to us. We had a discussion with Bob Brash from the Truck Loggers Association about Minister Ralston's recent meeting with stakeholders around the Declaration of Ecosystem Health, which was attended by many environmental nonprofit organizations and was not very well attended because we really weren't invited by elected officials from local government. This was the email that you got from NCLJ, and sort of indicating that UBCM was invited to this meeting, and there was a couple of last minute invitations or notices, I guess, were not invitations, sent out to a couple of mayors around the province, and a couple of them were able to get down to this meeting. But this Declaration of Ecosystem Health comes out of the strategy for old growth forests, and it sort of reads like this: that they want to declare that conservation and management of the ecosystem, health, biodiversity of British Columbia's forest is an overarching priority, and the government should enact legislation that legally establishes this priority for all sectors. It's a lofty goal, and it's probably important in our province that this that this be an important part of how they plan industry. But to exclude, well, I shouldn't say they excluded us, but they didn't invite local communities. They invited our association to participate. And yet, from our association representatives' perspective, there sure was an awful lot of environmental non-government organizations that were invited. And so it tends to start to set the scene of, you know, is it really full engagement with everybody, or is there a hidden agenda there? So it was quite a good discussion. There's not much we can do about it. It's going to move along its course, and we'll have to see. But I think NCLJ and representatives UBCM are trying to get us involved a little bit more. We also had a very interesting meeting with the Alberta Parliamentary Secretary for Transportation, talking about transportation economic corridors. So timely with respect to the meeting that we've accepted with the communities across the line. Mainly, the Alberta government is looking at fostering relationships with communities along potential corridors, Highway 16, potentially a northern corridor that might go to a port in the north. We talked a little bit about the University of Calgary's idea of a nationwide economic corridor that would see any kind of linear development coast to coast could be included in this corridor, similar to the original railway idea back at Confederation. So it was that was a good discussion too, I thought. February 22nd, I had a meeting with the BC Nurses Union at their Northern Convention. I was called into that, where we talked about the audit and the questions that we had for Northern Health. The response or non-response from the minister and from Northern Health, they were wondering where we were with the requests for trying to get some type of a review done, an operational review done from the minister, and we requested that the nurses start speaking a little bit more with their locally elected officials, because when the coalition sent the request around to get support for that that organizational review, I guess, or audit, whatever you want to call it, we didn't get as much response from folks as we thought we would. Some people were nervous about, or some communities were nervous about rocking the boat with Northern Health. Others had sort of big projects in the line, and they really didn't want to, jeopardize that. But more and more, we're hearing about communities around the entire province that are really upset with their health authorities, and they're looking for work with other communities to try to enhance that. So sometimes what it will take is pressure from constituents on locally elected officials around the province to get their elected officials and mayors to participate. And again, it's continually applying little bits of pressure wherever we can to try to get the province to do something about our healthcare system. The people within the system are fantastic. I can attest to that, you know, being able to go from here and go down there and return with a practically new heart in a matter of 15 days. So, and everybody that was with me, but I was lucky. There were hundreds of thousands of other people that aren't as lucky as I was able to be. So applying that pressure wherever we can is important. And that led to a CTV news interview with Penny Daflos, where I spoke about a lot of things, but mainly about the barriers to equal access with respect to healthcare, and the financial burden that Northern residents have to bear to have access to the healthcare system. And really, the federal system of transfers says clearly in it that those transfers are there to help reduce or eliminate the financial barriers to equal access. And so that's not happening. And so that was the point I tried to, and I think I sent you guys copies. And then I had a meeting with on the board of NDIT. So my first full board meeting, we did a review on the CAO, appointment of the new vice chair, an investment portfolio review with Maurer and Associates, who does their investing, our annual financial statement. Presentation by Community Futures. They'd really like to work more closely with NDIT, and they've got a couple of pretty good ideas, I think. And I think NDIT will start to think about how the organizations might be able to work together. NDIT has been looking for a while to figure out how they can get into investing more into startup businesses and businesses that are having trouble getting money. But the loans they've been, of course, they don't have that much money. They haven't exactly had real good luck with the loans that they've been, they had a loan system where they could back up loans for startups and other companies, and it's cost them a little bit. But that's what Community Futures does, and they do it well. And so there might be an opportunity for NDIT to set up a fund that's administered by Community Futures to help that whole thing. So there's some discussion around that idea and how that might work. So that was good. And then we talked about the financial contingency plan. The way things are going, they lost 10% of their portfolio last year. It was huge loss. So they had to reduce the program funding across all accounts from 7% down to 5%. But that leaves the Northeast with $35 million. And this year's granting budget will be $1.7 million, which is the most of any of the regions. So we're in pretty good shape. Mainly we have $38 million in our investment fund for the Northeast. 3 million of it is already committed. So that leaves the 35 million. And it's mainly because the programs are underutilized. And so there's been carryover year over year over year. And so we're 5 million more than most of the others and 10 million ahead of some. So the Northeast is in pretty good position with respect to NDIT grants. Phew, that's what I did last couple of weeks. Okay.
Can we get a copy of the Coalition's 2023 action plan?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
I can do that. Let me just make a note to myself. Okay, are there any other reports? I think I asked that already. Strategic priorities, talk about. Any questions from the public or news? Anybody online asking questions? Public? Please, yeah, so that the public can hear you. This one, sure, I think this will work. There's no light on. Let's go to that one because we know there's a light on.
Thanks very much, Mayor and Council. Bev Vandersteen with the Chamber of Commerce. Just in relation to your comments around the health and the request for an audit, et cetera, the Chamber of Commerce also wrote at the same time, echoing that request for an audit of Northern Health. We're just coming up on meetings with the BC Chamber and our policy renewal sessions in May. I am bringing a medevac policy in front of them again because we have one that is falling off those books. And as well, having discussions with other chambers across the province on exactly that, an audit of some kind or a look at best practices. We know the system's broken, and I don't personally believe it's a matter of just throwing more money at it. We need to look at what's going on and what we can do to fix it. So I will be sending an invite out to staff and regional council or whoever wants to join in a meeting to look at the content of those policies and the direction that maybe should take to have some follow-up provincially. And then my intent is around the medical system is to take a version of that policy to the Canadian Chamber as well, because this is an issue right across the country. So just wanted to make everyone aware. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Every little bit of pressure that we can apply. What I didn't say was that the coalition at our next executive meeting are going to contemplate a motion to NCLJ to put it on the floor for this very thing, to try to get it into the whole north, and hopefully that will go to UBCM. So yeah, every little bit of pressure helps. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions? Any last time for the public on the internet? Nothing? All right. So that brings us to item 14, which is a resolution to move into closed meeting, that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 91B, the community charter, where personal information about an identifiable individual is being considered for a municipal award or honor will be discussed. Motion moved by Councillor Andrews that we move in camera. Second by Councillor Gerwing. Any discussion about why we're going in camera? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. We are temporarily recessed until we go into camera. So thank you. We're back in the regular council meeting. So we will rise with the report from our closed council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Andrews, that Andrew Paton's application to the Northern Rockies Recruitment, Retention, Education and Training Incentive Program be approved in principle, subject to confirmation of eligibility with the health employer. Carried unanimously.
Thank you. With that, we are done our meeting and I will adjourn the regular council meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.